Hello and what's up everyone? I wanted to make another video just to talk about two really good tools that you can use to help you figure out where you want to get to in life. A recurring theme that I often go on about is how we're not designed just to work a day job and go home and watch TV and scroll on our phones and do all this kind of stuff. Like, we're actually here to enjoy being human, to experience the human condition to its fullest capacity, to go through interesting experiences, to take up opportunities and to explore just the nature of reality that we found ourselves in. And so, as I said, like, I really like to emphasize the importance of chasing a dream and doing the things that bring you fulfillment. Obviously I talk a lot about depression and anxiety being the soul's, language of telling you that you're on the wrong path, or helping guide you to greener pastures or a better life. Excitement, love, fulfillment, joy. I think I already said excitement, but these things are, the soul's way of telling you that you're on the right path, that you're going toward the right direction that you want to get to in your life, the things that are soul nourishing activities that are going to bring you that fulfillment. And upon following these journeys, opportunities arrive, people find you, and you'll find yourself with like-minded people who are also on these journeys, who are also looking to succeed in their lives and live in this harmonious way that brings them the most excitement and fulfillment and abundance. And so the very first thing that I always just start off with, if you're not too sure where you want to go in your life, is to just ask yourself the question, like, if money were not an option, what would I do with my life? And, for me, there were a few things. There was, like creating music, playing music, sharing music. On top of that, also doing, like, creating spiritual content or doing healings and helping people with their spiritual and self-development, which, I'm obviously doing through this because I don't need money to do that. So I'm able to do it already as it is. But, and then implementing that with certain, health structures. So exercise, martial arts like yoga, hiking, all this kind of stuff, which also ties into, which I'll explain further, as to what I do or what I have been doing for a career. But asking yourself, what would you do if money were not an option? That's a pretty definite, sign of what you want to do with your life, where your dream is, the things that make you excited, or the things that, will give you the most fulfillment, the things that you need to be chasing doing. Because as I said, you're not meant to be here and just, working a job that you don't enjoy and having to build up your annual leave hours and, having to get sick notes when you're sick, so your employer knows that you're not taking the piss on them, and only getting 2 or 3 weeks of holidays a year. Like, that's not the way it's meant to be. You're not meant to be on this grind, in this rat race. You're meant to be enjoying yourself, and again, finding your fulfillment and discovering a way to manage to monetize that and make a living off it, and to ultimately escape or achieve financial freedom is what we all need to be trying to do. And we all are capable of it. You just need to discover where you want to be and how to go about it. So again, asking yourself what you would do if money were no option, that's a really good place to start. And, the second one, which is what I tell every single one of my clients that I've ever had, I tell it to everyone, is to get a piece of paper, grab a pen, and ask yourself, on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy am I? And straight away, most people will kind of come up with, like, between a 4 to 7, typically. Most people land at a 5 or a 6 that I've spoken to. And, the very first question you ask yourself upon that is, what was the original number you went for, but then decided not to go for? Or you ask, why aren't you at a 10? And the very first thing that comes to your mind is what you need to write down, because that is the main thing that affects you on your mind, that you are dealing with and dwelling with, and that's giving you the most depression and the most stress in your life, which is holding you back from reaching your potential. it's most likely and often an ailment upon your life. It may be a relationship, it may be the line of work that you're in, it may be a whole bunch of different factors. But the very first thing that comes to your mind is what you need to write down. And once you have this written down, so say let's take a really, really basic example. Let's say like relationship. Let's go with a relationship, because this is where, when I first did this back in 2019, I was in a very toxic relationship. I was in a very, very unhealthy environment at all times. And the very first thing that came to my mind was that my relationship is not good. My partner and I were just not seeing eye to eye. We were not connecting. It felt like I was trying to improve my life, whereas she was in a bit of a spiral, and I didn't quite know how to help her. And so I wrote that down and I said, okay, why aren't I at a 10? I'm probably at about a 6 in terms of happiness at this point in my life. And, why aren't I higher than that? The first thing that came to mind is the relationship. So I wrote that down. And once you have that written down, you can begin to analyze things. So you've got the situation, you have it in front of you, and you can begin to pick it apart to figure out how to go about alleviating the issue or rectifying the issue. And I was able to write down, a multiple streams of possible outcomes that could come from this. And so the first one was, the quickest solution, which was to leave her. But when you've been with someone and you've fallen in love and you've been with them for multiple years, it's a difficult thing to do because it's very confronting. There's not just a financial involvement with them, but you're living together, but there's an emotional involvement with them. There's a psychic involvement with them where, you've got you're so used to this person, you're so used to connecting with this soul, and you've made so many plans and ideas for where you want to get to with your life that it can be very difficult to have the bravery to leave someone when you're that involved with someone. But that was the first solution, was to leave my partner at the time. And the other solution was, okay, let's come up with let's say a conversation or a hypothetical conversation or a solution that I see is the way to move forward. And so in this solution, basically, I came up with this idea where I knew that at that point in time, I wanted to become the man that I am now. I was very, I was receiving guidance and visions of who I wanted to become and the achievements I could achieve or reap. And so at one point I sat down with her and I went in and I said, hey, we need to have a chat about our relationship and what's going on at the moment. And she said, what's up? And I said, look, there is, I'm trying to get to this point in my life. I'm trying to become this certain person where I'm in control of my life and I'm, making good money. I'm living my dream. I've got fulfillment. I'm doing all these soul nourishing things. And I'm going to become this person no matter what, because I'm a difficult motherfucker to be around when I want to get what I want, because I will get it. And, if people aren't on board with it, the chances are that I'm going to, leave them behind and continue doing what I want, because I trust my own intuition. I trust my own judgment, and it's taken me very, very far in my life. And so I put that across to her and I said, look, this is who I am becoming. This is where I'm going to get. And, I need to know whether you want to come with me or not on this journey. And, the things that would be involved with this is you need to start taking care of yourself better. You need to start eating better, sleeping better. You need to start taking your health better and, start listening to me with my advice in healing yourself, because, unfortunately in her case, she had been through a lot of abuse in her life and had some very, very trauma-rooted belief systems about what she was able to achieve in her life, and, just was very, just believed that her brain was broken and had a lot of emotional issues, which is what a lot of people who get diagnosed with borderline personality or disorder believe, is that they are broken and they can't be fixed and they need medication. Whereas if you've paid any attention to anything that I talk about, that is, that's false. It's blatantly false. You can heal from anything. It just comes down to the trauma roots that are involved with it and understanding them and healing from them. There's no point emotionally that you cannot recover from. And, I wasn't as like put forth as that. I wasn't telling her that the things that she believed were fully wrong, but it was like, you need to start making moves toward improving your life. And taking my advice and the holistic approach that I have to it in, achieving health and fulfillment and healing from all these issues that you have. And so I said, this is where I'm going. You can either join me or not. And she said, well, what if I can't? And I said, you can, but that's up to you. And, it kind of ended on that note. And very shortly after, that was the lead up to us breaking up, which, was a very painful experience to go through when you're in love with someone and you have to split in that way. But I also knew that in doing so, there were so many opportunities that would come to me from being alone and not having to put so much energy into taking care of someone or helping someone with their own mental health and their own issues. And so I knew it would hurt, but I also understood and had my outcome as well of if we were to break up, these are the things that I'd be able to move on from. So ended up moving home, living on my own. And from then I was able to focus on myself. So I focused on work, I focused on exercise, on sleep, on diet, on my creative endeavors, and, really was able to embark on becoming the man who I am now. So that was a bit of a prolonged explanation of what I'm saying. But as I said, like when it comes to doing this scale of like asking yourself how happy you are on a scale of 1 to 10, you will be presented with the issue that you have in your life. And after that breakup, the next issue was my job. So I changed job. And I wasn't happy with my appearance. I was quite skinny at the time. I was nearly borderline anorexic back then. So the next step was also, again, like diet, health, exercise, learning self-defense skills as well, learning to express myself more in terms of like communication and verbal communication. And, each time I overcame one of these challenges, I would go back to my journal and I would write down again, how happy am I on a scale of 1 to 10? And each time, it went from, 5 to a 6, and then it went from a 6 to a 7, and then it went from a 7 to an 8. And it got to the point where I had eliminated all of the issues in my life, even friendships that weren't serving me, financial situations that weren't serving me, when it came to music, like bandmates that weren't serving me. And I just put all of my trust in myself, in my intuition, in my own guidance, and my own ability to succeed at what I wanted to do. And now personally, I'm at a point where the scale doesn't really even apply to me, because on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy am I? I know that the opportunity is constantly coming to me. I've become so skilled at assessing the things that are not serving me in my life that it's just second nature to me now. Like I'm thriving in a way that cannot be really expressed other than just not applying to the scale anymore. It's a magnificent thing to do. And so again, when you take the first question to yourself, which is, what would I do if money was not a factor? And you write that down and you think about, all right, how can I achieve that? You'll then be able to present yourself with, how happy am I on a scale of 1 to 10? Because the two go hand in hand. If money were not an option and you were doing the thing that you loved and acting the way that you wanted to be, the 1 to 10 scale is essentially the building blocks to reaching that goal. So again, ask yourself what you would do if money were not an option, and don't get in your head too much about how you're going to achieve that, because it could be anything. You could be an astrophysicist, you could be an astronaut, you could be, it could be literally anything. But don't get too caught up on what the actual, the method of getting there is. Just understand that that's what you want to do and that's what you're being driven toward. Because once you understand that and you start focusing on that, the intuitional guidance that you'll start getting will lead you to that. It'll lead you into situations where you will come across people, because there is a non-physical psychic network that goes on at all times. There is a constant cosmic conversation that is taking place where the universe or God or source or whatever you want to refer to, the supreme non-physical power, that the consciousness that is the impetus to everything that's moving on, the prime mover that's going on. It wants all parts of its being, which is every single one of us, to succeed at the things they want to do in life. They want us to all achieve ultimate fulfillment. And when you start going on this path and you start listening to yourself and you start taking your intuitional guidance and listening to your soul and going on this journey, again, you will come into situations that are just too good to be true or too perfect to even have been random. And it'll happen again, and it'll happen again, and it'll happen again. And as you continue to go down this path and, stimulate your psychic abilities, stimulate your intuition, stimulate these non-physical languages that are coming to you, and follow your intuition toward your ultimate fulfillment, things will just begin to fall into place. You'll truly begin to understand what abundance is, and the right people will be drawn to you, and the right situations and the right circumstances will be drawn to you rather than you having to seek them out. So again, ask yourself how happy you are on a scale of 1 to 10. Write down immediately the first thing that comes to your mind as to why it's not at a 10, and start working on it. Again, and I'll give you another example because I got too long on the other one. Like, say, the first thing that comes up is that you're not happy because of how you look. All right? Ask yourself why you're not happy with how you look. You might be overweight, you might be underweight. We'll go with the overweight thing. You write it down, you say, I'm not happy because I'm overweight. And lucky for you, there is so much scientific backing to how to fix this. The main 3 things are: you need to start eating better, you need to start exercising, and you need to start sleeping better, right? You start doing these 3 things, you will lose weight, but you won't only lose weight, you'll get stronger, you will look better, you'll gain more confidence, you'll be more competent and capable of just utilizing physical reality in general. And before you know it, you'll be on to the next step. And people will respect you more. People will be treating you differently because of how healthy you look. And new opportunities will start arising. More people will become attracted to being around you. Not to mention you'll look sexier, which means you'll have, it's a very good thing to have sex appeal. It's an attractive trait for people to know that you take care of yourself. It'll make people want to be around you because people like being around attractive and loving and healthy people. So, you'll fix that issue. You'll feel healthier. Not to mention your mental health will improve. You'll have a lot more clarity in the things that you're doing, and you'll be up to that next level in the scale that you're working with, and you'll be closer to your purpose and closer to your fulfillment. So start doing these things. Do them on a regular basis, even touch base with yourself on a monthly basis of where you are and how happy you are and whether you're succeeding in the fulfillment journey, and just keep going to it. A lot of people give up on themselves all the time, and they think that things are way too difficult to achieve, and so they just don't even take the first step, and they spend their entire life doing the same thing, talking about their past and the stories that they used to do, and they don't do anything with their lives. Whereas when you start taking action, you start working and you start, looking at yourself, because I'm only 30 years old, and you may think 30 years old in the scheme of a lifetime, say the average age people pass away is at 80 or something like that. The thing is that yes, I'm 30 years old, but from the age of birth to about 20, that's really just a trial phase. That's you learning how to live. And then your early 20s is just fumbling around. That's, when you're obviously learning about partying and, seeing girls or guys or doing all this kind of shit. You're learning about drinking and drugs and, what it is to earn money, or going to university or college, or, you're getting into trouble figuring things out as an independent adult for the first time. And so I'm at the age of 30, but in reality, I've only spent arguably 10 years being a functioning adult. 5 years if you consider the fact that the frontal cortex or whatever you call it only develops at the age of 25. Like, when we're talking about taking care of yourself, we're not talking about just like putting in a bunch of effort to achieve something. We're talking about developing lifelong habits that will continuously take you to where you want to be. Because I've still got, I plan on living to 120, right? Because I know how to take care of myself. I know how to, I know esoteric healing abilities and knowledge that helps my body regenerate in ways that most people haven't learnt yet. But I've got nearly another 100 years here. And, I'm making sure that every day counts. I'm making sure to put effort in at every single moment in my life because I want to make the most out of it. I want to make the biggest impact. I want to help the most people that I possibly can. So don't just view this as this like difficult thing to achieve what you want. This is where you're trying to form your life into an exciting thing that will carry out throughout the rest of your life and constantly bring you new opportunities and meeting new people. So that's the main point of this video, 2 tools that will really help you get to where you want to in life. And yeah, just get started, man. You got to get started and you got to keep working and you just have to keep doing it. And the hardest part is at the beginning, but once you start doing this, once you start seeing these results, and not just like the results won't necessarily be things that you can explain to people. They will just be shifts in your consciousness and, certain feelings in your intuition and in your soul that are telling you that you're on the right path. You'll feel happier, you'll have more clarity, you'll be more inspired, more creative, and things will just start happening if you go on this journey. I promise you, because I've been on it for a long time and my life is absolutely magnificent. Like, I wake up stoked every day. Like, there are opportunities left, right, and center. I have heaps of abundance. I've got, crazy amounts of, financial opportunities coming in. Like, people are always asking me to work for them and do work for them. And I have clients coming in and people asking me for advice. And it all just happens, but it does take time. But that's the whole point, because good things do take time. But the thing with this is that the journey never ends. Like, there's no point where you're going to get what you want to get and you've achieved what you want to achieve. It just constantly keeps going forever. So get started, figure out what you want to do with your life, what you want to achieve, and just stay on top of your mental health, stay on top of the things that are affecting you, and continuously work toward living a better life, and you will get there. And it'll happen so much quicker than you think it will. And it'll just continuously blossom and grow for you at every single point of the stage, every single stage of the journey. So, yep, check out the links below. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. If you could like the video, that always helps get it into the algorithm. As I'm always just trying to help more people as possible. And I appreciate your support. So thank you very much. Peace.